Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone, to The Last Lap. For the first time in 2023, we're back talking about F1 with my... You're looking different today. I can't quite put my finger on it. Niran.
Did you reckon?
Yeah,
I got a trim recently, so it might be that. I think I did something different with my hair today.
Maybe.
Didn't wash it this morning, so maybe that's what I don't know, up there or something.
Happy New Year. Where the hell did you get them from, man? For all the audio-only listeners, please explain, because there's a lot of audio-only listeners here who aren't getting the full experience.
Yeah, shouts out the Spotify gang. Basically, we're out here with the golden sunglasses on that say Happy New Year just above. It's a fresh year. It's 2023. It's a new year. Same foolishness, ladies and gentlemen.
Where did you get them from?
I think they're from Amazon. I didn't buy them. One of my flatmates bought them. And I've now acquired it.
I was thinking that could have maybe been like a Christmas cracker kind of.
Yeah, big Christmas cracker though, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's got to fit in fairness. So.
But listen.
Jumbo size.
Why not? It's a pleasure to be back, mate.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here. So
the new year.
To be here with you.
And pleasure to get yet another guest on the Last Lap podcast. It's Jake Paul.
JP1.
Yeah.
JP1.
The one and only. Yeah.
Before your audio-only listeners kind of go, that ain't the YouTuber.
No, that
doesn't sound like it.
But you've navigated that.
Wrong shape.
You've navigated that one well with JP1.
I think so.
Love your new logo, by the way, mate.
Yeah, not so new, but yeah, I think we'll get a merch line going, and I'll try and catch up with you guys.
Yeah,
sensational.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jake, first and foremost, kind of introduce yourself to the audience. Why are you a relevant voice in the world of F1, my friend?
Who said I was relevant?
I'm saying it. I'm flying that flag.
Tommo knows all.
Tommo knows. Right, so I'm JP1, Jake. Graphic designer, formerly at Formula One, formerly now from Oracle Red Bull Racing as well. And then I've got sort of smatterings of experience doing graphic design for like sports agencies as well. And I don't know, depending when the podcast comes out, you might know and you might not know where the next step is, but I'm sort of trying to assemble like an F1 Thanos gauntlet of sort of graphic design experience. So I've got like F1 itself.
That's the middle one. That's probably the middle.
That's
the back one.
Yeah.
Is
it the yellow one? I don't know. Whatever.
I think so. Yeah.
If we've got the sort of the F1 stone, we've got the agency stone, we've got the race team stone. There's maybe two more that I can think of.
You've got the LinkedIn stone as well. You might recognise, if you're watching, you might recognise this face.
The most professional of them all.
Yes.
If you're watching the video version, you might recognise this face from a LinkedIn advert. When did you do that LinkedIn advert? Because that was the first time I saw you.
I think it was just before 2020.
Yeah.
It was just before COVID. I think the advert came out just before then. Yeah. I think not that far from this secret location is actually where we filmed it. So it's kind of nice to come back and
memories.
I mean, a couple of people asked for a few autographs on the way in, obviously.
Standard. Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, really. It's the price of fame. It's the price of fame.
Well, yeah, because you pivoted from what I guess conventionally seems quite a dry career to a creative, fun career. And I can say that because I'm a designer as well. So I'm more than happy to destroy your old boring career.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're one of us now.
Where's the creativity in making like a spreadsheet? Like Comic Sans, it's
there's a lot of fonts out there.
There's a lot of fonts. I mean, the
so.
default fonts. I mean, Wingdings could do it in that, I guess.
Yeah, slap it in there. Couple shapes and sizes. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I used to work in banking, and I'm a qualified lawyer, which is really weird to say still. Like 10 years on, but I mean that's my background. Allegedly,
a lot of allegedlys in this.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we've got to be careful.
A lot of that. I mean, I'm gonna be reviewing the podcast and sort of check in. What sort of if there's any defamation suits I can start filing people.
Every single sentence of this pod, I'm gonna have to say it.
Because
I say some ridiculous
watch yourself.
things.
Maybe put terms and conditions in as well.
Yeah, I'm only allegedly wearing these sunglasses.
You only allegedly got a head.
Only, yeah.
We are doomed. We will get a bit more into
for sure
because there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of insight that well, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you about your varied experience.
That's what I'm here.
Exactly, that's why we've got you on. But first of all, and sad news actually, I think we need to address first thing. Ken Block,
Mate.
Yeah, man.
lost his life.
Rest in peace, honestly.
That was a shock this morning.
You see his hashtag trending, and that's the last thing you think.
Yeah.
But, snowmobile accident in Utah.
Yeah, no.
Incredibly
Thoughts and
sad.
prayers with his family and friends, because he was obviously like as an avid gamer when I was like growing up. I used to play like Dirt 3 all the time and Dirt 2 and all that jazz, and he was on that, and that was like what introduced me to him and his Gymkhana and his drifting.
Gymkhana is how I got into it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Same. The one I remember the most is the first time I had a Mark 7 Fiesta.
Yeah.
Because my mum had a Mark 7 Fiesta.
yeah.
And I was like,
you were like, I can do this. This is relatable. I can drift this car.
Let me go down to Tesco right now.
I was like, Mum, look, this is the potential that our car has, okay? See it. That was the first Gymkhana I remember, but that's how I got into it. And then obviously, the Dirt games came after. But what I think, because obviously this is an F1 show, but this is also a motorsport show. And I think anything that helps get people into motorsport, be that Drive to Survive with F1 or Gymkhana or video games, however that comes, it's all part of the family. And yeah, man, that's far too soon as well. It's only, 55?
55.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't realise he was that old.
No.
It's kind of
I was actually
I thought he was in his
surprised.
40s.
Yeah, thousands.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw him at Goodwood as well.
He's done, yeah.
It's a big blow, man. It's a big blow.
Thousand.
Just such a good gateway to people into motorsport. You know, like the Gymkhana series, that was hyped every time one of those came out. Because people were like, what is this madman going to do next in this car?
He's like drifting and like the back tyres like over like a 75.
Honestly.
Insane.
It's just like, what's going on?
And we're not even talking about the cars themselves. Like the cars
No.
themselves are just works of art in the sense of like, how do you like, you've got like a Mustang, like that original Mustang was like my favorite one. And like, that's a very established car at this point. We know what a 60s Mustang looks like. You need to kind of deconstruct it and kind of go, I don't care.
I don't care about the rules.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, mad. Absolutely mad.
And legacy will live on for sure. But anyway, back to F1. Jake, your first kind of experience working in this great motorsport came with working for F1, if I'm correct in saying.
No.
Is that correct?
No. Check your facts.
You exposed me as a terrible allegedly, sorry. So where did it begin?
It began, so you're one of your previous guests, Tim. I used to work with him, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, we've got a crossover there.
Tim did tell me that. Tim.
Big up, Tim.
You.
Yeah, so it was a sports agency. So I did not have any exposure to F1, really. Like one of my mates in my group watched it, and he would bore us to tears in the pub all the time with facts about different drivers that I didn't care about. And then I think growing up, it was just kind of like F1 is just the Michael Schumacher invitation. Like I just kind of was like, oh, cool, I guess.
Yeah, this guy wins it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you put gun to my head as like a 12-year-old, I mean, don't put guns to 12-year-old heads, but
that's the law coming out, right?
Exactly. You got to kind of like cover yourself, just swerve. I mean, I would have said like, oh, I was a Schumacher fan, but it wasn't like I had like a great connection to it or anything like that. It was always about football. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of get a call when I like blown out my knees playing American football, and it was after a job. Recruiter rings me up one day and he's like, "Oh, like there's a sports agency that are hiring." I was like, "Oh, I think this is a little bit kind of advanced for me. Like I'd just come out of my first job. I'd only done it for about 8 months. I've only just become like a designer as far as I'm concerned. I'm like, in the future, yeah, man, that'd be so cool. But right now, no." But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go to the interview and just get the experience of going in there, sort of see what the big leagues is kind of like from the minor leagues, and just get the experience. And then when I do go to sport, I've kind of got an idea of what to expect. Yeah. But I went in there after the recruiter's gone like, I was like, do they do football? No. Basketball? No. I don't know, just sport I kind of know about. He's like, no, they do F1, they do sailing, they do cricket. I'm like, these are the deadest. I'm like, oh.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy.
There is no redeeming qualities about cricket. There's nothing
Oh, no,
interesting
no, no.
about that. No. If I leave here with anything on the table, no allegedlys, it's a dead sport.
You're happy to ruffle those feathers.
I'm happy to ruffle the feathers. I'm happy to just
Violate that fan base.
And the three people who watch sailing who are listening as well, they're
Big
not
up.
happy.
Sail GP, I'll give them their due. Sail GP
There's
looks
quite
like
a bit
it
of
might
crossover
be.
between sailing and F1
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
in terms of technology and components,
Adrian,
materials. Adrian, yeah, it's true.
Come on.
Yeah.
America's Cup,
Ineos as well.
Merck versus Red Bull, all over again, just on the sea.
But no, fuck sailing. Anyway,
Not interested.
carry on.
So yeah, long story short, go to the interview, not expecting much, and just hit it off with the designers there. They like vibe with me, I'm vibing with them. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, don't get carried away though, lad. You're not getting this job. Anyway, I got the job and found myself now having to like design stuff around F1. So at the time, I think the first sort of team exposure I got, and bear in mind, obviously I'm at an agency, I'm not working for the team itself.
Of course, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a big difference. But I was doing stuff for McLaren and the Hilton account. So it was just really strange for me to kind of go into like a sport that I had no real understanding of. I couldn't tell you who the main characters were. I mean, I'm in the interview and they're like, what do you know about F1? And I'm like, is Lewis Hamilton still a thing? McLaren? Something about McLaren. And I was like, I don't know.
Heard about
anything.
Ferrari this one time.
Yeah, yeah. Did I think Ferrari? Yeah, I think Ferrari. I think I knew a Ferrari. But I kind of went from not knowing anything to designing stuff, and then you'd see it on TV.
Yeah.
Like it was the most strangest thing to kind of go from creating in like my bedroom, and I see it, and I'm like, that bangs. And then, cool, turn the computer off, that's it, done, dusted. To suddenly, like, it was the Australian Grand Prix, the first race I ever watched from, start to finish. And it's like elements of like the agency there. Like Hilton was their account. Hilton's like just a pivotal part of the business. So it was kind of like, that's us. You're watching TV like, wow. Like, and
Got
I
your
don't
fingerprint
know
in there.
exactly. And I don't know if you can look at any sport in the world that has the exposure that F1 does. When you think of, we always look at it kind of European eyes because we're in Europe, but they have such a great big audience in places like, India, Africa, Asia. Obviously now America is a developing area. South America, you've got like, Checo is like leading that charge. I don't know if there's a sport on the level F1 is that has the exposure it does, that you can kind of, if you're granted the opportunity, walk into and have an immediate impact and people see it with that many eyeballs. And that for me was just like, mate, inject it. That was just the moment for me where I'm like, right, like it's cool. You've got like cool cars, you're making a graphic with a F1 car, like it immediately bangs.
Yeah,
Like,
it looks sick. Yeah,
it is just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like,
All the components are there. It's not like a really. I remember some of the clients when I worked agency work, like. Oh my! There was one of the clients. The driest client I worked with was, when you go through airport security.
I'm already bored.
Yeah, exactly. and the machine your bag goes through.
Yeah.
It's the company that makes them.
Right.
That makes those machines. How am I meant to make that interesting?
But how are you supposed to
exciting,
get
or
excited
impressive?
over that as well as a designer?
I can't. F1 makes your life easy. But so what years were you?
Find your luggage today.
Luggage by Tommo.
I should have got you on. That was good.
There is
mate.
a voice
That was
over,
too
man.
good.
I'm here,
That was
I'm
far
here
too
for
good.
it.
I'm missing out. But no. So those years. When did you? So what were those years? How long ago were you working at agency?
2017 to back
so
into 2018.
Not long ago. And then obviously you moved from there to F1.
No, this guy, man.
When do you get to F1, man? What is all these different
Can't
jobs?
tell him.
Why do you keep changing
Look at
jobs?
me, I'm the professional here.
Yeah, that's why I keep looking at
I felt like I forgot I had them
That's
on.
what it
I was
actually
looking
says.
at you and I was like, yo, how are you not?
That's what it actually says. I'm a professional.
Yeah.
It's because my eyes keep drifting upwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it is New Year. Yeah,
It is, dude.
Yeah.
It is, to be fair, New Year.
No,
What
I
happened
left
after
there. Basically, the team sort of changed around. There was like a big sort of upheaval, and also like needed money to pay a mortgage. So left there, went and worked for I did a Tommo. Basically, I went to somewhere that wasn't like super duper exciting. It was a print company, and it was all about like business cards and
Oh yes.
Nice.
Talk to me.
posters. And yeah, I mean, I thought this might just be like creative death now. Like I mean, and don't get me wrong, like
It's a tough gig, that.
it's a tough gig. I love design. Like I'm passionate about design first and foremost. And then sort of the sport aspect will come afterwards. But I was just like, man, I need the excitement again. You know, like when you're working as a designer in the industry, your kind of life revolves around race weekend. Like I think it's kind of, it's probably a little bit over the top to say it, but you kind of almost feel like you are like an engineer almost or something. You're kind of gearing up, or an athlete, you're gearing up for the race weekend. Like, you know, you come in on the Monday, let's say that Sunday is the race. You've got deadlines to hit before then. That could be for activations for this, I don't know, sponsor, this client, etc. And that was just what I missed. Like, you know, I go to a print company. Like, there's the competition in that? There's not really. So I was there for
possibly felt part of a team like you would when you're working in.
Yeah, and I think as well, like I kind of brought an element of like the F1 sort of mentality to it. And I'm not entirely convinced that like they liked that. Just put it that way, because obviously they're just like, yeah, you know, that's fine, we can do it. And I'm like, no, we need to, you know, it needs to be better, faster, you know. And they're just like, all right, can't like, it's not that.
When
deep.
everyone got in the morning, it's like, and away we go.
Yeah,
Jake Paul is here.
sit down and start announcing myself, you know, like in P1. Yeah, it's a bit much. And I would be trying to like subtly get F1 references into like, you know, if it's a business card like mock up or something, I would be like Mr. Alonso, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
Just little things, see if anyone knows.
Yeah.
And then so basically I went back to F1, but I went to F1 after that. There's a lot of crossover with sort of people that I'd kind of worked with or sort of knew. They kind of knew who I was vaguely at the time. So
did F1 come to you, or did you see the opportunity?
It was like the weirdest thing. I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to start looking for something more like sort of my ballpark.
Okay.
And then like I got on a certain social website that I won't name for legal reasons.
Not sponsored.
Definitely not. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. And I literally saw that they had a job there that was like pretty much, in terms of like experience I'd got to that point, it was like I'd written it. It's almost like a Christmas wish list, but or whatever. I'm like, amazing. So I went and applied for it, got it. And yeah, that was kind of foot back in. And
did you know it was with F1, or was it one of those job adverts where it only tells you the job description, it doesn't tell you who it's for?
No, I think they'd actually put it as F1. Like I'd applied for an F1 job maybe a year or two before and didn't know what it was for. And then they were like, can you move to Kent? No, I'm not doing that. So that's kind of like where that kind of ended. And it's kind of like when one door kind of closes, another one opens. Like, you know, I think you always got to look at these types of things as like, it's a positive, it's not a negative. Like you can sit there and you can be like, oh, I didn't get like a job at wherever. But you're kind of, you know, there's nothing to say you can't come back. There's nothing to say you know that door doesn't open later on, and you've made that connection.
Yeah,
face to face. Face to face is always better than over. You know,
you never know when a positive interaction with someone can come back to like
you just
help you out years down the line.
Networking, it's all about links.
But it's also about treating people like with respect and nicely. Like I've seen people, I've worked with people, you know, sport is like a very like incestuous sport industry, but also there's a lot of people in there who have like very strong personalities, and I think that's great, but you can't be burning bridges and then expect to kind of have an opportunity later on, because people don't forget, people remember. And you know, it's just play the game. You know, it's a game at the end of the day. Careers are a game at the end of the day. But I think it's just about treating people nicely, because it will just pay itself off later on.
So when you went to F1, were you working from their secret London base?
Top secret.
Top secret.
Yeah, it's got like an underground bunker, you know, where Ross born.
They don't put the address out because they don't want people turning up.
Well, you can find the address.
Like congregating.
You can find the address
if you look hard enough.
No, I'm joking.
Stefano's going to kick the door in.
I mean, if you find the right sort of spot, like you will sort of, you know, when I was there, let's see who did come in. I mean, you'll see a lot of like people from motorsport kind of going in there. You know, I saw Lawrence Stroll. Like I was in like a boardroom one day, like having a bit of a dry meeting, and like Lawrence Stroll kind of walks past, and you sort of like halfway like through writing notes, look up, and you're like, "Nice gilet, mate." Oh, you know, okay, Lawrence is here. Like it's a cool place to work. You just don't know who might.
Did you
show
sense
up.
Lawrence's energy? Does he have like a gravitational pull? I can imagine just the way he walked, like
gravitational pull,
esque,
full of money.
No, I mean it's like one of those things where like if you're in a room with someone and they kind of have that aura.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the room. But
He
like,
strikes me as someone with that aura.
You can't, because like I said, I'm looking down and I'm like, the energy just shifted outside. People have gone like from this to
tables are shaking.
So yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Like just being in, having you're that close to it is pretty interesting.
Because it's such a like that environment, and you've got such a variety of characters.
Oh yeah.
But obviously, when it comes to a design point of view, because obviously every team and F1 has their, that's a huge part of promoting yourself, marketing yourself. Yeah. Is that, is that side of things all quite close? Like, do you know a lot of the designers in F1? Like, does everyone know everyone, like across the teams, or?
I mean, like, big up Sean Ball, obviously.
Of course.
The GOAT.
Sean the Ball.
Yeah. I think it's kind of getting there. I think initially there wasn't necessarily a lot of like cohesion, but I think like with stuff like COVID and people kind of having to communicate with each other, or, people were posting way more work at that point. And I think that changed the parameters. I think beforehand, not intentionally, but there was just kind of like divides, oh, well, I'm not going to talk to the Merc designers because, like I don't like Mercedes, or I'm not going to talk to the Ferrari guys because, I don't like Ferrari. It's not, there's no, I think a lot of sort of the animosity you see between like fans and stuff doesn't actually correlate between like people working in it. And it's like really funny to the people working in it when you see like fans going for each other's throats on Twitter.
Yeah,
like
tribalism. It just doesn't, like, obviously it's not going to...
What did you say about it? You're like,
well, all like the pit crew are on the same flights going home.
Yeah. Of course they're all
everyone's
mates.
mixed.
I was on the same flight as all the McLaren, I think it was McLaren and Haas, like going to and from Miami. I was in business.
All right.
They're all walking past. I'm wearing full Red Bull gear, like piecing them out. There's no.
And they're giving you one of them back.
Pretty much. I mean, they weren't happy. But then they got their own back when we got to the terminal because they've all got their like priority access to their bags. So I was stood there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, win some, lose some. But there's no animosity between people. But I think as time's gone on, I think the networking and sort of the hands of friendship, shall we say, has kind of improved and people are talking. But then from a design perspective, it benefits, if I look at it, like if you just look at it completely objectively, it benefits me to actually sort of reach out to all these different like teams and the designers and know who people are, because at the end of the day, you're always looking like, what's everyone else doing? What's like Alfa Romeo doing? Because like, some of their graphics absolutely slap. Right? How can we bring elements of that into what we're doing or something similar? You look at Williams and, they've just started doing motion design in their graphics. How do we kind of bring that element into it? And it's just kind of, at the end of the day, like it's so, as I said, incestuous that people are always kind of taken from everyone. Yeah. That's why I think the social media side of the, look at it back in 2017, 18.
Yeah.
It was like a wasteland.
Jesus.
And now, we've got Ferrari doing memes. It's a new...
It's crazy. It's a new world. See, I was going to ask, do you get that like total creative freedom? Because obviously when we were talking about liveries before on the show, there's like such restriction in what you can do because certain brands and companies want this and that.
Yeah.
Do you have to deal with that?
You're designing a billboard on wheels.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect analogy, really. Yeah. I know people have left F1 for that reason because it is a lot, especially if, you pour so much of your heart and soul into a design, get it to a point to then have it kind of walked all the way back, and we're going to do a white car and it's going to have this on it and this on it, and then it's going to be a red car now. And you're like, come on, like this is like such a good concept, and you'll have eyeballs. And I think it's kind of balancing that frustration with sort of the reality of the sport. Like people are paying a lot of moolah to be on, the car. Doesn't matter where it is on the car.
Certain way, yeah,
and they have input, So is creative freedom. I think varies, and I think it would also vary between team to team to team. I think if you were a newer team, so let's say like Ford, come into the sport as a new entry, I think it's more of a blank canvas there, but you're still going to be bound by what are Ford's brand guidelines, because obviously you're not going to have a pink logo. They're not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, there's a balance, and it's just finely balanced depending on who it is.
Yeah.
And then obviously when you went, you've worked for Formula One, You've also worked for a team.
Yep.
When did you join Red Bull? Oracle Red Bull Racing, sorry.
Oracle Red Bull Racing. Yeah. Put some respect.
I noticed you said that at the start. It was that drummed into you. You have to lead with the title sponsor.
Have to know Brandon. You have to know.
It depends. It depends because obviously when I joined,
Mercedes
Red Bull
AMG
Racing-
Petronas Formula One team.
Oh, hell no, no way. That's too much. That's Merc. It's always Merc. No, like I mean, when I joined, it was Red Bull Racing because Aston had left the year prior, and then obviously
So what was your first year?
first year was 2021.
Yeah.
So I think it was just after Baku because when I did my interview, I walked around the factory. I got like a little factory tour, and the car had just come back and was in a few bits. There's a few bits. It was like but they're just like, yeah, look at the carbon, like here, it's not great. And I'm like, you're touching an F1 car. Like, my brain had just like gone at that point.
Yeah.
Like that was Max's car. Can you show me the wheel that he was kicking? Oh my god, bizarre. It was the most surreal point. It was like an out of body experience. But I joined 2021, and
You joined at the maddest time.
mate. What a crazy period of time to have joined.
How was that? Like, because emotions must have been, because obviously the time of the Baku incident,
Yeah.
that
Was he
was
leading? Or was it?
Yeah, Max was leading.
when he had the-
Yeah, because Lewis had done. Yeah,
Then Lewis did the brake magic, and so it was one of them that
It kind of balanced out in the end, but Max still kind of lost out on points, technically speaking, because he
Yeah, that was true.
'Cause, like,
wasn't
what-
that Perez's first win?
That
with
was.
the team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Bottas got a puncture as well.
Like, what was the emotion like at the time in the team, and how did you come in? Because obviously that was such an intense year, and you've come in halfway through, and you're meeting all these new people, and you're like, are you straight at like 100%?
No,
like,
I mean,
fully.
I mean, I'm historically a Lewis Hamilton fan. I wouldn't really say I have like a team allegiance necessarily, but my soft spot has always been Red Bull. Like, so when I went to that agency interview, that was the sort of design task I did was all about Red Bull, just because I didn't know any F1 drivers. I figured Lewis Hamilton was too obvious to do like a design task around, so I just typed in F1 drivers, and there's Danny Ricciardo grinning his head off, and I'm like, he looks happy. Like, that's great. And then I'm like, drives for Red Bull have a Formula One team. That I was like, I had no idea, genuinely, and I'm like, that's kind of mad. I didn't really understand like the deepness of Red Bull and sort of its fingerprints across sport. So like I've always had a soft spot for like what they do and kind of how they're pushing boundaries sort of off the track and everything else. I having that soft spot and kind of going in, I was like, all right, cool. I'm align myself with obviously my employer, but the atmosphere and sort of there are people that have worked in that team for a very long time. Some people are like
Since it was
racking up.
Jaguar.
Yeah, some people before that, and you kind of get the energy. So like my girlfriend, now fiance, no, don't get mad. At the time, she was like, "Oh, you're going to join Red Bull, and you're going to just like get consumed by it, and everything else. You're just going to renounce Lewis Hamilton." I was like, "Nah." I ain't doing that. It's like I can work at Red Bull and still support Lewis Hamilton. Like it's calm. I think I was there for like 3 days, and I was just like, "Oh man, like Red Bull, man, Red Bull, Red Bull." Still supporting Lewis, but wanting Red Bull to win over him, which was different to how it was before, where I'd kind of like want Lewis to win, but Red Bull to somehow kind of like Lewis win drivers, Red Bull to win constructors, that kind of thing. But so many people have just wanted them to win and to kind of get over like so many, there'd been so many trip ups in the years prior, and so to kind of be in a fight. That was like the excitement was quite palpable.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there long, and suddenly you're kind of like, you're watching races with a very different, you cut to, I don't know, a different team, and you're like, get it back, show me Red Bull, I need to see, where's Max, what's he doing, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time, we got to, let me think, it was like was it Jeddah? I can't remember. When
They were
the
sort
whole
of brake testing each other.
thing.
Yeah.
I was watching that, and like I thought I was going to die. Like the pressure had just ramped up. Like the whole team, like we're just living and dying off of.
Were you watching that at home, or were you watching it at the factory?
I would probably got arrested if I'd like watched, because I'd have just been like screaming, like you're getting sections. There's something clearly wrong with you. You got something wrong. No, I mean we got to sort of like Abu Dhabi. I watched that in a bar in London, and you know, I was like undercover because it was like turned out it was like deep Mercedes territory. It's just everyone like all these people crawled out the woodwork. It's like Lewis Hamilton because you remember the hype that you know everything had got, and I had like a Red Bull thing like under my t-shirt,
ready to just pull off.
If we win, if he wins, I'm just gonna like full on, you know, like skid like I've just scored the World Cup final in front of everyone.
knee slide,
Knee slide settings.
And it just obviously popped off. I mean, like it was just such a like relief because you think I've been living with that for 6 months, give or take, of just, you know, this pressure, win. And that comes from the top down. Like it doesn't matter what your job is, anyone below the team principal, you know, you could be someone who works in the kitchen or maybe you're someone that works in facilities. It doesn't matter. It's like I'm just driven to just absolutely smash what I do because I want to be better than the person at other teams, even though we've got the same job. So by the time that all kind of climaxed and kind of reached this end, I mean, like we were just, it was unreal. Like to the point where this year was like quite anticlimactic because for those of us who were there the year before,
that'll never get top.
No, I mean, like we went into the office the next day and it was just like party, full on party. Like I got in there
What, is
early.
this Abu Dhabi?
The next morning.
I was going to say Christmas party must have been incredible.
Didn't have one that year because of COVID. Yeah.
Okay, what was the office like the day after then in that case?
Vibes, just pure vibes. I mean, like Queen was playing a lot. Like, that was on loop. That was on loop, bro. I mean, you know, we ended up doing the whole thing. I don't know if you know. People might have seen like the whole sort of reaction to Max coming back to the factory and the flares and all that stuff. And just to be a part of that, I mean, what a privilege, what an honour. I mean, there are people who have worked in F1 for 30 years who have never experienced that. So for me to kind of walk in and be like, hey, yeah, cool, I'm Jake. And then, you know, that happened was mad, absolutely mad.
How much do you credit Christian for, it feels like he's instilled that culture within the team. It's kind of, even though they've quite consistently, you know, been able to perform near the top. It's this kind of us versus them, like underdog. We're the energy drink. He always talks about we're the energy drink that's coming in amongst the big manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I feel like I think Christian deserves a lot of credit for instilling that, because that seems to have been what has given Red Bull that slight advantage. That's also what got Adrian Newey in, I think, as well.
I think so. But then that's also the mentality of Red Bull as a brand anyway. Like, we shouldn't be here is always the kind of... It's like an unwritten mantra. Like, we shouldn't be here, but we are. And we're like, you know, even a few years ago, like, we make energy drinks, but we're at the top end of the grid. And you've got, you know, renowned designers and car manufacturers behind us, sort of like, what are they doing? How can we do that? So there is absolutely like an element of that, but I think Christian obviously has a perception in the media and from fans, but I think on a sort of, I'm not gonna say like on a personal level, like I've gone to his house and, you know, had cups of tea endlessly or something, but like he's not what I think a lot of people kind of perceive him to be. And not to say that he isn't without blemish or, you know, like whatever, but he's just not necessarily that. He's a nice bloke. I think his mentality is not a bad thing given the sport and the industry and what he's trying to achieve. Like, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of win by any cost, which, you know, that sometimes is not always, you know, sometimes there's a line and sometimes that kind of gets rubbed out and moved back a few paces or something. But I think ultimately, like, his heart is always in the right place, and his heart is purely Red Bull and pushing the brand and the team as far as it can possibly go. I mean, the man clearly, you know, sleeps, eats, drinks, the sport and everything around it.
He eats frozen. He has Red Bull ice cubes.
Don't knock it till it's dry. Don't knock it till it's dry.
You know what? That'd actually be a good shot. No, because I think whatever the sport, rarely do you have a top manager, a top coach, leader who is universally liked. There's always like
well,
I think
partisan.
Is it you always have to create that us versus them atmosphere? That's
it's not about being liked.
No, and I think a good analogy is Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't know if I'd necessarily because Fergie to me is the GOAT and he's just on another level of sort of sports management. But it's that you always heard about Fergie's siege mentality. It's us versus them. And you've got, you know, United back in its heyday with him would be winning titles and they'd still be acting like they've never won one.
Yeah.
And I think it's the similarities there.
Yeah.
And, people can like him or dislike him, and that's entirely, their choice. But I think you kind of have to respect dragging a team to sort of the success that it has and doing it in, some style last year.
Yeah, you have to respect the achievement, whether or not. Again, same with Fergie. Like, I mean, my dad couldn't stand Fergie.
So
but he could never look.
Same.
But
As a Liverpool
can't-
fan, I couldn't as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But you can't deny
As
the
you said,
achievement.
you can't like, you can't be liked by everyone at the end of the day. But if you're a Red Bull fan, I would be surprised if you're like, I don't, not a fan. It'd be a bit weird.
That would be a bit weird. But obviously now you're out of that kind of,
Bubble.
out of the bubble. Going into 2023, are you, being able to follow the sport in a different way, I guess?
It's going to be weird.
It's going to be odd, isn't it?
It's going to be very weird. Like, I have such a Red Bull tint on things.
Yeah.
Like so much of, like from a week to week basis. When then there's drama kicking off on Sky F1, getting the inside scoop before everyone else does, and kind of guarding that secret or whatever it is. It's kind of like knowing a bit more than the average fan.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of just am excited to just be able to watch F1 and not be like so kind of like at the TV or
Be relaxed,
whatever.
there's
Mate,
action,
you just have like people coming up on corners or so you're like, oh, please not engine failure, please not engine failure. You hear a radio message and you're sweating when Max is like, oh, the wheels have got no. So it'll be very different, but it'll be maybe I'll be a bit more. It'll be more have more enjoyment from it.
But did you, obviously, given the job that you did at Red Bull, did you get much insider information like that you would have to protect?
Mate, I know all about the aero. All about the aero. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't necessarily say all of it. At the end of the day, Red Bull specifically, there's different buildings. So by that happening, there's not sort of it's harder to kind of cross paths with people and sort of be like, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. But news will always filter through. I mean, but that's to say that it's news that you would hear. It's just that I might hear about it an hour before you do or whatever. And just kind of having that touch point and kind of that exclusivity was always obviously a nice thing.
Obviously, going into 23, Red Bull on top, Max world champion, constructors.
Yeah. Mercedes.
Mercedes are skeptical. There's been a few quotes coming from, which I guess, take it with a pinch of salt, whether I think it's no team, you set yourself up for failure if you overhype yourself.
1,000, yeah.
Every team's guilty of it. Do you think Mercedes are going to be able to re-establish? Because obviously Ferrari pushed Red Bull, for sure, and should have pushed them further, really. But do you think it's going to be a 3-car battle next year? What do we think generally in the room?
I would personally just enjoy a 3-team battle, if I'm going to be totally honest.
When was the last time there was a 3-team battle?
We're talking it's got to be 2010, 2012, that sort of era, when it was Mercedes. No, not Mercedes, sorry, McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull, right?
Yeah, maybe 2012.
That's
I feel like, it's been but I feel like all the pieces are there, right?
Yeah. Toto Wolff's the king of sandbagging as well. So anything he says, anything he says.
And according to Christian, this 7% extra ATR time is going to cost you about half a second a lap, which I think is bollocks personally, but I'm entitled to my opinion. We'll see about that.
I don't know. I think if you've done, I suspect that my predictions. No one asked me for the predictions. Red Bull win constructors and drivers again. I'm pretty sure.
Shock.
Yeah. Don't go to, that was controversial, wasn't it? Williams. No, I'm joking. So Red Bull, I think Ferrari are going to drop off a little bit. I think.
You don't believe in the Vasseur master plan?
I believe in Vasseur. I personally just kind of think that there's going to be an element of bedding him in.
Yep.
And him kind of coming to grips with, okay, this is the infrastructure I've got. This is what's different from Alfa Romeo Sauber to now. And sort of just trying to understand the work, because Ferrari is a very complex machine. We're not talking the car, I'm just talking about the infrastructure.
Yeah, it's probably the most unique, I'd probably say.
And there's more meddling from top management than you get with any other team.
I think and there's a lot of politics in that role as well. And I think I think it's just going to take him a little bit of time to navigate that. And I think that's going to kind of, how that impacts on the track, I couldn't tell you, but I just think Ferrari are going to maybe a little bit off the pace potentially at a point, whether it's the beginning or whether it is the middle somewhere. And I think Mercedes swoop in because they were what, a few points behind, in the grand scheme of things, they were right behind Ferrari.
Yeah, and their pace towards the end of the season was obviously a lot better towards the start. What were Toto Wolff's quotes again? He said, I think the W14's going to...
Bang.
Well,
bang. It's going to
You
say
say that.
Like surprises.
he said that the banging from the porpoising was breaking their engines. Apparently,
right.
Obviously, porpoising was a big factor early in the year. We kind of forgot about it once.
Yeah.
To be fair, the FIA's kind of, when they intervened, and they put that did seem to shut it up. Obviously, Red Bull didn't seem to struggle with porpoising too much throughout the season because big brain Adrian.
Ground effect,
baby.
Yeah.
But I think that, I feel like Mercedes, they've got too much quality in their personnel. They've got too much quality in their driver lineup to not be up in the fight. I get they're trying to play it down, but all teams are going to try and play it down.
This is where the surprises that Toto were talking about is like a double DNF first race. That's it.
Oh, don't talk to me about that, mate.
Red Bull double DNF.
I told you how those sort of team meetings were because we have a team meeting with Christian after, or a debrief after every race. Those first races, oh my god! Especially from the high that we'd just come off on. So we're going into this year wait, yes. And then it's I'm like, no, oh my god! I was like, what's going on with the cars? New regulations. So you're like, don't know.
Was it? Was it kind of just a sense of just general, almost
despair,
panic and bewilderment, or
it was just we don't know what's going to happen. Does this mean the car is rubbish? Does it mean can it be fixed? There's the whole Honda thing, there's the Red Bull powertrains thing. Obviously, it resolved itself, but how the energy was. I will always remember how the energy was in the room at that point.
Yeah,
and kind of look, got to pick ourselves up. And again, I'll give Christian so much credit for you to kind of be able to lift people back up and kind of go, let's fix this and let's keep going. To then absolutely, smash it.
I was going to say, it shows how quickly things change because this will be remembered as one of the most dominant F1
But people kind of forget the double DNFs and the engine problems and then this thing and that thing. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a 3 race season, maybe 24. We'll see next year. There's a lot. Each race matters less when there's more races because there's more opportunities to recover and repair any.
But again, the
mistakes.
mentality is always let's say that you wrap the title in the US. It's just well, there's records to go for now, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just let's not give them anything. We don't care. We're not giving.
We want that highest win ratio.
P1,
percentage.
P2, lock them out. It's just there from every level. And like I said, I'm a graphic designer. I don't put a single screw in that car. But you're sitting there feeling it let's go. Yeah, I'm going to drive the car. Yeah, you end up absolutely smashing it down the M1.
I'm going to use so many adjustment layers on my next.
How can I incorporate DRS into this PSD? Yeah.
But obviously going forwards, there's been a lot of talk. I think we all seemingly as fans anyway, maybe the team's a bit less, and we understand why. It does affect their cut of the F1 bag. Is new teams.
On the way, there's an active search.
Mohammed Ben Sulayem's been chatting.
I'm glad you said
He's
that.
been flirting.
Yeah, he's been
flirting their eyelashes.
Well, I had to write down expressions. Expressions of interest, which is an interesting way of putting it, to be launched to prospective new F1 teams. Why is F1? Is it just because if you add an 11th team, then the prize money's got to be split 11 ways instead of 10? Is that the only reason that the big teams don't seem to want anyone else coming in?
I would say so much of it is just it's obviously having now worked, with my Thanos gauntlet from all these different perspectives of Formula One, sort of the full outsider looking in, the half in, half out in agency kind of aspect of it. You might be doing other clients or something. Being at Formula One itself and at an F1 team, all of their sort of priorities are very different to each other. There is a constant war between Formula One and the teams about F1 wants to kind of, when you look at sort of other leagues, you say called the NFL. The NFL have a league-wide uniform deal with Nike. Nike makes all of their stuff, like the on-field uniforms, the sideline stuff. You know, if you're a coach, you have to wear a Nike hoodie, Nike hat, or New Era hat, whatever. They all have those types of stuff. Look at F1. You know, Williams is rocking Umbro off the top of my head. Mercedes is Puma. Red Bull now is bringing in various entities to kind of cover that. Everyone's got their own thing. They've got their own arranged deals. You know, Williams has got a deal with whoever, and it costs X amount, which doesn't mean that, I don't know, Alpha Tauri's deal is the same thing. It's not. So you have all these different sort of factions kind of warring off against each other and trying to claim back some more control. And I think it ultimately boils down to like, they don't want to be cutting, you know, any more prize money with people, even though that pie might be getting bigger. But also, I think as basic as it is, it's another car like in your way. Like, you know, it's another car that might, you know, crash into you. It might be, you just want to keep it as is. With F1, as fast as it is on track, it's quite slow off of it. It's always just kind of like a lot of feet dragging. There's a lot of politics, and there's a lot of kind of trying to work out, you know, how do we kind of phrase this in a better way than we did before so that actually people sign off on it. So
I think F1 historically has given a lot of power to the teams.
1,000.
More so than in what I feel like I see in other sports typically. In most other sports, it's like the ruling body, whether it's you know, the NFL or NBA or Premier League or whatever, they make decisions and then everyone else has to kind of, obviously there's a degree of nuance to that, but like they make the rules.
They ultimately make the decisions.
With F1, so much of it seems to go to committee with the teams. Or we got to get such percent of the teams on boards for any decision.
I think it's because it's so perilous in the way that if they made a decision, F1 teams could just go, now we're good, we're dipping. Whereas if the Premier League go, we're going to do this. Arsenal, actually, they did try and make the Super League, but realistically speaking, they're not going to go, we're just leaving.
But like they couldn't do it by themselves. So like you would, if you were Arsenal and that something happened, you know, they said, well, like, actually, we're not going to give you the last 6 results for whatever reason. And they're like, well, I don't want to be part of the Premier League anymore. They'd have to go around and be like, I don't know, City, do you want to leave? And, you know, there's not that political power; it just isn't there.
Well, it's like that Live Golf thing as well. I don't know if you follow golf at all, but Live Golf started as its own separate thing, and it's trying to get players on. But I think the bigger the sport gets, the more power F1 actually has to keep these teams in. I know everyone talks about because more. I mean, a lot more teams seemingly want to be involved. There's loads of rumors. You mentioned Ford earlier. There's rumors about Hyundai. There's Porsche. Obviously, they've put it out there that Andretti as well.
Could I just say, right? I always thought it was pronounced Hyundai. Then I saw an advert the other day, and they said that it's pronounced Hyundai, and my mind was blown.
I just learned something just now.
I did not know.
I
did a
video.
I
just went, that is a real fancy way to say that.
The whole point of the advert was that people are mispronouncing it, and then they were like, it's Hyundai, and I was like, pardon? You say what?
I swear, in the States, don't they pronounce it like Hindi or something?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure I've heard it pronounced so many different. Well, no, I did a video about Hyundai.
Oh,
right.
And that's how it's pronounced in Korean.
I'm going to actually have to remember that.
What teams would we like? What manufacturers would we like to see? Everyone says Lamborghini.
Yeah,
it'd just be mad because like they've got quite a, you know, speaking from a nerdy designer, their design language is quite crazy, much like their cars. So just to kind of see like liveries that
they're like opposite to Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, like it would just be cool to have like another. I know, obviously, like Alpha Tauri technically are, but it would just be cool to have like a heritage brand from Italy, kind of potentially rivaling Ferrari or sort of doing something else in there. Because it's a cool brand, man. Like it'd be like bringing Bugatti in or something. It'd just be like mental.
Just be gas, I would love to see Ford as well. I think the liveries you get with that would be bang. I'm not gonna lie.
Ford
or a third Red Bull team. Obviously, you've got Red Bull in English, you've got Red Bull in Italian, Red Bull in Spanish.
Long live Toro Rosso.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Red Bull in Austria.
Red Bull in Austrian
company.
Yeah, that could work.
Because that's the thing, that there's so many different. Clearly, F1 with the budget cap, with the there is clearly more demand than ever. The fact that MBS have come out and put this out there and put it out into the world, there's clearly interest. But I think as well, like, and this is why the video I did, the reason I know how to pronounce Hyundai is because I did a video saying, like, what if they joined F1? Because I think they're the type of brands, they've done a lot of motorsport activities, but I think they'd get a lot of value. WRC, they're being like touring cars, they get a lot of value because Mercedes used to be like a old man brand.
Oh yeah.
Now it's like every drug dealer in London's got like an A-class AMG. No, an A-class like AMG, not AMG.
On finance.
But you know what I mean? Like that the brand perception around Mercedes has changed loads. Being in F1,
brand perception is unreal with like Formula One, especially in the recent boom that we've had since COVID. I mean, think of Toro Rosso as like, you know, the sister team, the little brother to the big brother, to then rebadge as AlphaTauri, a clothing brand that at that point hadn't really launched itself properly. I remember your video actually of you buying that AlphaTauri shirt. It was
dead.
Yeah, in your old kitchen.
Throwback.
Throwback. And then for people to kind of know what AlphaTauri is, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can, but it's insane that you could just sort of produce this thing that quick.
Yeah. Did anyone know what an Alpine was before?
No, I didn't. I definitely didn't.
They still only make one car.
They need to.
I'm like, come on, man.
But you had some time now. Like,
you still only make what I heard Cadillac actually being referenced as well, because Cadillac's one of them brands that like
they do a lot of racing. Like
they do.
I feel like they do.
They do
like NASCAR, stock car.
US. You know what's it? ALMS, whatever it's called.
LMSA or whatever it's.
It's
called.
what Kevin Magnussen did when he was out. He was in a Cadillac doing endurance racing. It's like, but that's what I mean. The perception, I think, particularly in the UK, perception around Cadillac is Escalade.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the front grille. I was just thinking of like an F1 car with a front grille that is just huge.
BMW with the new massive nostrils.
Spinning.
Oh my god.
Spinning rims.
Yeah. Oh. It's an F1. Oh, it's like ultra porpoising. It like bounces up and down. Like
my god.
Just to pimp my ride.
Yeah.
In the back.
We got a boombox in the back.
And also, what's going on with Honda?
I mean, you tell me.
What's going on with Honda, man? They can't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They lost out on the Brawn.
Yeah.
They had the title-winning car, and then back in, back out. What are they doing?
Yeah.
What's going on? Well, Honda are definitely going to be on the grid in 2020.
I think their priorities shift. You know, like
daily.
Well, I mean, because obviously they pulled the plug on it because they were like, well, we want to focus more on like electrical sort of cars and that kind of moving to that sort of thing. And I think that's like that's really admirable. But also like that's still relevant to Formula One. There's still
it is with the new regulations coming in 2026.
Exactly. There's so much electronics that kind of go into the car. So I don't know. I don't know if this is kind of like a board level thing where, you know, like half the room is like, yeah, no, let's do F1, and half the room is like, nah.
Yeah, it's like when an ex just can't like get over. Do you get me? Or someone can't go over their ex. They just kind of keep going.
But they have such a heritage in the sport.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me. It's not like you never won with them. And you're like, we keep trying, we keep losing. Yeah. I mean, you've got Senna driving one of your cars.
You keep trying, keep winning, and then leaving.
Like, the most iconic car.
The most.
Is
a
Honda.
Yeah.
That's why I think I've seen a lot of like conspiracy theories knocking about with the Honda coming in to like accelerate their engine development, blah blah blah. I think that's just giving Honda too much credit. They just can't make up their mind.
Can't decide.
Honda, stop. It's time to stop.
It's time to stop.
Right? Settle on.
Make a choice.
Any other brands before we move on? Any other particular? Could be non-automotive brands.
Well, people keep going on about Tesla as a brand.
Oh Christ.
Yeah, but they're all electric.
I mean, that's what I never really
Formula
understood
E, innit?
with that. I was like, well,
They'd be Formula E.
That should be Formula E. Yeah.
That would make so much sense for them.
That would make a lot of sense.
I would like to see the most mundane car brand join.
That's what I was trying to think of, like Volvo or something.
Dacia.
Skoda.
Yes. A Skoda Formula One team would be unbelievable.
Skoda. Scuderia.
No, they could buy AlphaTauri.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Scuderia.
Imagine a Skoda.
That would be
pulling up.
class.
AlphaTauri, mate. That would
I
be
could
so
actually
good.
imagine a livery as well, and the sort of brands. It'd be like be like really like functional things.
Yeah.
That's the designers.
Yeah,
cogs
it'd be just functional.
going in.
Skoda.
Yeah.
But talking of potential futures for the sport, because I do think the grid in 5 years is going to be pretty exciting to see.
I think it will. Yeah.
There was an interesting quote that I found on from Max Verstappen's kind of socials talking about Le Mans. and how potential him, Sebastian, Fernando,
Oh, that'd be
Le Mans super team. Vettel quoted saying, "I'm not old, but maybe we could do it together." Fernando quoted saying, "I know Max would like to drive the 24-hour Le Mans. I'm definitely open to doing that together. Maybe Jos can act as team manager. Not so sure about that part personally. but
Okay,
we'll
yeah,
see.
no,
Come on, surely."
Is this the era of like in the NBA they've got like all these super teams? They call them. Is this the era now of super teams where it's just like
Yeah,
you
because
know what?
it's 3 drivers, isn't
Yeah.
it, for Le Mans?
Plus it's like I'm pretty sure if they kind of went into like the paddock and were like, "Hey, I'm available."
everyone will be like, yo.
I don't think. I mean, obviously people have like contracts up, but they'd be like, you'd be kind of stupid to be like, "No, we're good. We're good." Like, just bring
Sorry,
it in.
Max, mate, you just...
How many have you won, Max? Yeah, I don't, who are you? No, I don't think that's.
F1 All-Stars.
Sure, and like, no disrespect to Brendan Hartley, but he came in, had a pretty mediocre F1 career, and has had loads of success in endurance racing. And
But I think this is the
Kobayashi,
rise of motorsport now.
this is
I
it.
think we're on the kind of not even a crest of a wave yet. I think this is just it started with F1, and F1 is kind of obviously like the pinnacle of motorsport. And I think it's kind of filtering down because I was kind of like of the opinion. I kind of guessed that Ricardo was going to come back to Red Bull. That was a guess as well, so that kind of happened. But I was like, kind of, it would be cool if he went NASCAR or if he went to IndyCar. The amount of eyeballs that would kind of
would
transfer
shift, yeah.
over with him. And
He's
kind
the
of give
biggest
these-
F1 driver in the States.
by a country mile.
Yeah.
It
So,
doesn't
like,
matter.
He
regardless
would be
result.
kind of stupid not to do that at some point, I feel.
Verstappen and Hamilton are nowhere near Ricardo
Yeah.
in terms of the States,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is the biggest market, arguably.
I mean, because obviously Kimi did a little bit of stock car,
Yes.
and the amount of attention he got doing that. I mean, I found myself watching like, what's going on, like what's happening, cool car, whatever.
Yeah.
If someone of that caliber, even if they were like ex-F1, the amount of people, look at what sort of Grosjean's doing over there, and the other guys, they're not doing a bad job of it, and I think they're great ambassadors for F1, and they're great ambassadors for whatever series that they're in.
Yeah,
so it's kind of I almost feel like F1 should be kind of encouraging it, or sort of like sort of extending a hand to sort of IndyCar and NASCAR, and kind of going, well, look, if you want to grow it in America, start talking to the fans that are already watching motorsport that aren't watching F1.
Yeah, it's interesting point. It's like, how do you perceive, it's all motorsport, whether you're racing on ice, whether you're racing on tracks, whether it's open wheel, whether it's closed wheel.
2-wheel, 3-wheel, 4-wheel, whatever.
And a lot of the skill set carries over. Sure, there's some drivers who are, I wouldn't necessarily expect, someone to go straight from F1 and win at Le Mans, because that's, I think that's to discredit the quality that you've got already in those series. But yeah, I think for me, it's like the table's big enough for everyone to eat. And the bigger the table can get, everyone benefits long term.
Was it all boats rise when they rise together? That's probably not.
That's
but
inspirational,
you know what I mean?
mate.
That's
I'm feeling
good enough
inspired.
for us. That's inspirational.
I'm feeling
But
inspired.
I mean, we got the chief fact checker over there. He's not going to be able to know, is he?
Yeah, he doesn't.
True. I know everything about your career.
Apparently, sorry.
Do you think they're doing? And also, you had Kevin and his dad Jan
Yes,
race
yeah.
together, didn't
Together,
they?
oh, that was wholesome.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. Jan and Max, but Jos and Max. Jan.
I would love to see the F1 drivers do more multidisciplinary. Like we see it a little bit with Race of Champions, don't
I was
we?
about to say, yeah.
That's the only place we really see it.
Vettel just driving around.
I mean, like if Mick's doing reserve driving, let him super reserve at, I don't know, like kind of build a bit of a sort of background doing other stuff as well.
Yeah.
I don't think like it's going to take anything away from you as an F1 driver if you can drive the wheels off an Indy car every now and then.
Yeah.
We've occasionally remember when Fernando did the Indy 500 and Jensen.
Mate, I was like so excited for the Indy 500.
Weed in
I
his
had no
seat.
idea what it was. I was like, yes, yes.
That's what I mean. Like
Kissing the bricks. They're drinking milk.
because I feel like if you're into motorsport, if you're exposed enough to other types of motorsport, you can enjoy it.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Absolutely.
It is about getting people in the first place. And I think
that's
you can
what-
make
that's what it's
that
about.
that
Yeah.
pie bigger. Because the bigger the pie is, the more interest there is, the more prices for everything comes down as well. Because look, motorsport is never going to be anywhere near as accessible as football or American, like whatever, right?
no.
Is never going to be as accessible as that. But it's still very, if your parents are got money or they're an ex-driver,
You're good. Yeah.
you're going to get opportunities. You know what I mean?
And you end up with the same type of person coming into the sport, and everyone going, it's the same type of person in the sport. What's going on?
Yeah.
So I think if you kind of if you look at it with a much wider lens, look at it from the grassroots level, you are going to end up having more people from different backgrounds and different experiences and walks of life, kind of going, oh, I can do that. I mean, obviously, like Lewis is doing that with what he's been doing in the last couple of years and his advocacy. I think it makes the sport itself so much stronger as well, and it makes it more appealing.
Yeah,
It just feeds itself.
to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing, like, since we got more eyeballs on these drivers as human beings, you can literally, I don't know, maybe it's not an exception, but I feel like with F1, there's so many different personalities.
Yeah.
Like Ricciardo, totally different to Kimi, totally different to Sebastian.
But it's because there's only 20. You know, like
True.
Football.
It's a small pool. Yeah.
Football is across the world.
Yeah.
How many? I don't know. Hundreds of leagues at varying levels. Like I can obviously follow Kylian Mbappe, and then I don't know De Bruyne, and you know all these different people.
There's thousands of
There's
footballers that you
thousands of
see
them. Yeah. So
every month, realistically. Like,
I think where you've got 20, it's very exclusive. And as you said, now you can really hone in on people's characters a lot more because there's not so many people to kind of get them lost in each other. So I think,
Yeah, I think a big character going into next year as well is Fernando Alonso. I was on the way up. I was looking at he's done his little launch.
Yeah, yeah.
With Aston Martin with his helmet. How do we think that's going to go? Because I think
it'll never last.
he's still he's 41 now, and I know his age always gets mentioned. We're all getting older.
Yeah.
I'm 30 in a couple of weeks, so
Jesus.
tough.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right?
Imagine, I'm turning 32 this year. Making me feel old.
We're getting old, boys.
Oh, my back hurts.
But
My lower back.
Lower back.
I think the Alonso Aston Martin move is one of the more interesting ones moving forward because I feel like this surely has to be last roll of the dice for him. He's banking on this opportunity coming good.
You sound like you don't think it's going to work.
Aston Martin were maybe not. Aston Martin were much better. Like if you look at the tail end of last season, they were up there with McLaren and Alpine. I feel like in terms of pace, well clear of Alfa Romeo. Do we think that's going to pay dividends? And do we think you've seen the Lawrence Stroll energy firsthand? Them two in a room. Whoa. I mean, that's either going to go exceptionally or awfully, surely.
I think it's going to go well. Because if you're I think if you're Lawrence, you know what you're bringing in.
It's true.
And if you're Lawrence, you're the top dog. So like you are the boss, you're the owner. So it's not like Fernando can be like, oh well, I think we should. No, Fernando, we're not doing it that way. Like I've said, we're going this way. No. So I think Fernando also knows what is kind of the parameters that he's walking into as well. It's not like Aston Martin is brand spanking new and Lawrence just bought the team. It's been around now for 2 years? This will be the third season. So I think if you wanted to bring any driver in that is currently on the grid, you got your choice to develop a car. I don't think Alonso is in the bottom tier of that. I think he's
not
absolutely up there. He will drive the wheels off that car, and they're going to get so much data off of it and his insight. I mean, he's a world champion as well. So it's not like he's some Johnny come lately.
I think he'll do really well for them. Obviously, he's Fernando Alonso. The one thing that I'm concerned about is that Fernando was getting frustrated being Esteban Ocon's teammate and being raced a little bit harder than you would hope for. I have concerns about him being a teammate of Lancey Boy.
They're valid concerns.
Because whilst I think Stroll is a little bit underrated in terms of just his general pace, he does continue to do stupid things on a regular basis.
Agreed.
Relatively regular basis.
Yeah.
Where Alonso is the type of character where he will get to a point where he's fed up of that and it will become very apparent. Like you'll get the team radios where he's complaining and stuff like that. And he was okay with it in Kota because he was like, I'm going to Aston Martin. He's going to be my teammate. I can't say anything too crazy. When he is actually his teammate, he will say something crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm concerned about because Lawrence is,
Maybe he has a huge character development.
Maybe.
Like Sebastian.
Look, I think that
Becomes a hippie just like out of nowhere. That would be great.
That's not happening. That bit won't happen. I will eat my hat if that happens. But I could imagine him kind of just. I think the infrastructure
Become a father
Aston
figure.
have,
Yeah.
and sort of the personnel that they have,
yeah.
they're and sort of the again. I'm an outsider. It's not like I kind of have ever been in there or anything like that. I get the feeling that they've kind of started to build. You know, it's not a new team anymore. They're bringing the right types of people in, and you're sort of seeing it on track. But in the infrastructure side, they're also kind of doing that. And I think it would be kind of and sort of against all of that for Fernando to come in and kind of be like, yeah, no, not interested, not
Yeah.
talking to you, no, not doing this thing.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, no, because and as much as when it first was announced that he was joining Aston, I was surprised. I think most people were surprised. I think actually, when you look at it, which team would you gamble on being able to deliver a title championship fighting car? As much as the Alpine's quicker at the moment, I think you look at the Aston infrastructure, you look at the investment that Lawrence has both in Aston Martin as a brand that he part owns, marketing that well with a good F1 team, because we've seen what that's done again, like Mercedes, that's completely changed.
Yeah.
Aston Martin haven't been doing very well, like from a stock price point of view. Not that anything has, but I'm just saying that I think that there's that level of investment there. I think it was the right choice for Fernando, and I just hope it works out for him, because he's like, when you look at 2 world titles, this is a man who clearly should have more, given the quality of his.
You look at what he
ability.
did at McLaren. Like those, so like when I started working in the industry, and I'm like, oh yeah, McLaren, blah blah blah, and they're at the back, and I'm like, what's going on? I thought this was like, what? Like, to sort of see like how he managed that sort of period, and not to say that like the car got massively better, but I think those 2 cars, 2017, 2018, would have been in a much worse situation if he wasn't kind of at the helm, kind of holding them accountable. And I think that's what kind of thing he's going to bring to Aston Martin, where it is kind of like, okay, this is not good enough. It should be at this level.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the history of Aston Martin, I mean, obviously I know Vettel's kind of been there and stuff like that, but I just think Alonso will develop it kind of better than Seb to an extent. Like I think Seb's presence was kind of like, this is championship, this is the level you need to be at. And then Alonso's thing is like, cool, Seb's done that groundwork.
Yeah.
My job is to bring that sort of, here's the car, this is what it should be doing, etc. And they kind of complement each other in that way. And that's not me saying Seb's worse than Fernando or whatever. They're just
Yes,
different.
it is.
just different characters and just different mandates they've probably come in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they can't ask for 2 more experienced, and like if they can't make it work with Seb and then going into Alonso going forward, then
Next up, Lewis. Boom.
yeah, that's it. The Holy Trinity. Talk about Infinity
He
Stones.
looks
Yeah,
strange
that's
in green
Infinity
overalls.
That would.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm kind of going to understand Fernando in green overalls either.
Yeah,
That's going to look.
yeah.
it's gonna take some getting used.
It's just like even when he had the hat on, I was like, oh, this is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to adjust myself into this one.
Odd. Right, let's wrap it. Equal machinery debate.
Equal
What's
machinery
this part
debate.
of the pod, Niran, to remind everyone listening, watching?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the segment of the show. Well, that sounded like I was about to do an FTW.
It did, didn't it?
You know,
Go
this
on.
is a segment of the show where, I was going to say, where we are allocated a driver each. We have to argue that they would be the best today. They would win in a 3-person race in equal machinery in the exact same car. At the end, we then got to guess whether we truly meant what we were saying. So we've been allocated a driver each. And,
who did the best job.
Yeah, who did the best job to...
Even if you don't believe what you're saying. So this is
waffle.
allocated by producer Lewis. Big up, Lewis. Charles Leclerc for you, Jake.
Yep.
Okay.
George Russell for you, Niran.
Oh, PR 63.
And Lando Norris for me.
I love that you got as good.
Yeah.
You've got Lando.
Yeah. You can't have Lando.
Yeah, I'd just be like, he's good at Among Us. No, I'm waffling.
That's all the hallmarks of a future champion.
And also we're going to do this time limit. 1 minute.
1 minute, 60 seconds.
I'm going to make you go first, Jake,
All right. Charles Leclerc.
because I'm a terrible, awful human being. So you've got 1 minute to say that Charles Leclerc would beat George and Lando in equal machinery. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, he's already beaten them repeatedly this year. I think ultimately, though, he's like knocked Sebastian out of his car. That's a 4-time world champion. Yeah, I don't think it's up for debate simply because George, I don't see the sort of dog in him as of yet. I think we saw elements of it in Spain when he was fighting Max, but I think Charles, obviously it didn't work out great in the end, but he fought Max pretty hard, was still sort of up thereabouts, and I just don't think that Lando's not been tested fully yet. He's not been in a title fight. Charles has. Yeah, and George has a lot of potential, but I just don't think they're there yet. They've not been tested through the fire the same way Max was against Lewis, for example. So I think Charles is the one because I'm just watching it count down.
He's the one. Okay.
He's the one.
Just repeat
to 1 minute.
the same point.
Over and over. That's what I did last time.
With slightly different words.
It's a good strategy.
That's what I did last time when I had to be flipping Mick Schumacher.
You could sound more stroppy about that. Yeah.
Okay.
You next?
Is it me next? Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Right, cool.
Why not?
Yeah,
Right.
safe.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, he finished second in a Williams at Spa. Stop the clock. Who else is doing that? No, carry on. Who else is doing that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, no one else is getting in that Williams, yeah, slapping it second on the grid at a rain-soaked Spa-Francorchamps. George also beat Lando in F2. So if we're talking about like actually just in equal machinery.
But how good is he at?
I was going to say, this is today, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, if we're talking today, that's calm, man. George beat Lewis Hamilton across the championship realistically in a Mercedes. Like, George has gone out and won at Brazil. Shown that when he's in a race-winning car, he can go out from lights to flag, control a Grand Prix.
The McLaren and the Mercedes are not equal machinery.
Okay, no, I hear that. I'm not talking about like comparison to Lando, but in comparison to Charles,
derail him.
Charles has had multiple opportunities this season to win races, and whilst Ferrari have bottled it, he has also bottled it at times as well, like at Imola and in France. I haven't seen that sort of breaking from George Russell at times when he can bring home points. Boom.
Excellent. Not bad.
Not bad.
It wasn't bad.
But watch this.
Oh, God.
Lando Norris, right? In terms of mistakes, driver, mistakes themselves, I don't see him making any. I'm sorry, Russia last year, that was on the team for me. Like, the team have to feed him more information. He put that car in that opportunity in that place. You look at how well he stacked up against Carlos Sainz, a man who outscored Charles Leclerc in their first season together as Ferrari teammates, and pace-wise hasn't been outqualified Leclerc in the second half of this season just gone. How close he got to Sainz.
This man does not want me to retort right now.
Lando Norris, I'm sorry, Daniel Ricciardo came into that team with all the hype. Everyone expected Daniel Ricciardo to put Lando in his place, and he just didn't. Lando stepped up, was able to dethrone the only man that could come close to Max Verstappen in equal machinery. Lando has not put a foot wrong in his F1 career so far. Obviously, everyone's got odd days. No one's perfect, right? But Lando, top tier, carrying that McLaren team forward to potentially future glory. We'll see, unless Audi snap him up as well. That could happen. Done. Oh, I just did another lap.
He didn't beef me at any point, though, so that's all on you. Like, he didn't even mention...
Objection, Your Honour!
Well, no, I beefed both of you at the start because Russell and Leclerc have both made their share of, individual errors.
Yeah, individual errors,
I feel like from an individual error point of view, I think Lando's strongest. So I'm carrying on. My minute's gone. But what do we actually believe? That's the question.
Right.
Equal machinery, Leclerc, Russell, Norris. Have we convinced each other to change our perspective?
I think...
Jake, did you believe, first of all, in what you were saying?
Half. 50%. Gun to my head, keep using that analogy, sorry. I think I would always go...
Come on, you got to pick one.
Flip-flop between Leclerc and Lando. No, I still think... Nah, I'm going to go Lando. I think Lando. Because I
convinced you, it's fine.
Absolutely. I think, coming in, I had strong convictions and melted them away. They're gone now. Freaking hell. No, I think Lando. I think put them all in the same car. Lando is, less prone to make a mistake. Because he's clearly got like the mental capacity, I think, without having gone through all those different experiences. Leclerc, as you said, sometimes... questionable decisions, or just thinking of France like last season.
Imola as well.
And I won't cuss George out. I'm not being just I'm not 100% sure with him yet. I kind of think we're early days. I think we did a phenomenal job at
first year at
Williams.
Mercedes.
Yeah, like I need to kind of see a bit more and kind of like, how are you as a driver? What are you like when you've got a car underneath you that can compete consistently with the other guys?
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of see it a bit more. We've seen flashes.
Because I think it was quite a low pressure season for George, wasn't it? Like no one even expected him to come in and really be like, there was the expectation of, well, I mean, you've got to be on Bottas's level. You've got to be at least, or, you know, better. You've got to at least challenge Lewis a bit, but, you know, we'll allow you if you're 60 points off him in the
Plus
championship.
the car clearly wasn't competitive to win races at the start of the year.
Exactly. So that whole start of the season where he was like just finishing in the top 5 consistently, whilst it was like crazily impressive, he was probably driving under like limited pressure, as much as you can be in Formula One. But I still think that was crazy impressive. Yeah. For me, I did start to convince myself, I'm not going to lie, whilst I was talking, because you know what it is? Halfway through, I thought about Bahrain as well, 2020, and didn't even say it.
Yeah, that's a very good show.
But I was thinking it, because that drive was ridiculous. Like, I mean, the guy could have won it like 4 different times. You know?
His head was in front of the intake.
Yeah, I know. It was insane.
The engine was starving.
Screaming.
Yeah, no, it was, and I think he has had an impressive season, but you're right, in terms of like those individual errors, you still kind of do see it. I always just love the fact that George, in one of like F1's worst cars in the last like 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, was still able to provide points like semi-regularly. And that drive, well, I'd say it wasn't really a drive in terms of the race at Belgium, but that qualifying.
Sail GP.
Yeah.
True.
As Sail GP, come on.
Full circle. I like
Swimming
that.
around. Was crazily impressive. But I do think, and I'm not contractually obliged to say this, but I do genuinely think in equal machinery, I think you would probably see Lando come out on top. I'm not going to lie. I love Charles as well. I do love Charles.
I think Charles has all the markings of a future.
Charles, if he can iron out these mistakes, will win championships.
Dude, he's getting
1,000%.
like, so many pole positions. Like, he's got the mentality.
And he's got the speed, obviously.
And he's got the speed. So it's just like, once you iron that grease out, as you said.
I mean, it was his first time actually competing for a championship, so you cannot allow it a little bit. You know, Max was making mistakes.
It must be difficult working with a team where clearly Charles' confidence in Ferrari has been quite understandably wavered by what happens.
It definitely had its moments, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000.
I think of the 3, I think today Charles is the quickest driver. I think he's the quickest of the 3. Would I trust him to bring it home as much as I would Lando? No. But I think in terms of the quickest driver of the 3 today, I think it's Charles.
And obviously that was me and my advocacy just, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I came in with a conviction, you melted that.
Yeah.
And then likewise, me and just this gift of lawyer speak.
Yeah, you swapped and I just melted my own. So none of us actually believed in what we were saying.
We're all liars.
We're all liars.
We're all frauds.
You're a liar, an actress.
That was really good. I like that.
Yeah, that's fun. Pretty good.
Boys, we're done.
Good.
Good stuff.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
That was really good.
Very
Mate,
good shit.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Tell everyone where they can find you.
On the internet. JP1_design on pretty much everything, really. I mean, you can just Google it. Just Google it. You'll find it.
Search it.
I think Tommo follows me, so just find me on there.
I think I do. I hope I do.
I'm sure you can find him on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Big up LinkedIn!
On there and on the ads as well.
And where can everyone else find us if they're are we on Pixo yet?
I don't even know what.
Are we on MySpace or?
Oh, probably.
I was at Pixos before your time.
Follow us on BBM.
BBM. Throwback.
Today. BBM, Bebo, all of that. LinkedIn, Calm, Snapchat. Can find us over there.
Design.
Through that one. That was a wild one.
Easy. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening only, shout out the listening crew. Give us a 5-star rating over there. If you're watching on YouTube, then please do like and subscribe and comment saying whether you want a pair of these glasses. We'll release them as merch.
If you've watched to the end on
it says
YouTube.
the last lap instead. On the top.
That would.
Cannot confirm.
If you've watched the end,
true,
say Niran's glasses are washed.
Washed.
Then we know you got to the end.
They're washed.
They're slightly dusty.
Yeah, they are slightly dusty. I'm not going to lie. Oh, and follow us on TikTok as well.
Yes.
Clips going out over there.
Yes.
Shouts out everyone who's supporting over there as well. Tommo, it's been a pleasure.
As always, 2023. I'm excited, boys.
Yeah.
Going to be a good season.
It's going to be a banger.
Yeah, Jordan yet. Jordan yet.
Bye, everyone.
Adios.